I am calling the Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022 Code Review Task Force meeting to order at 5:30 PM. Roll call of members: Andrew Nusma, present; Eric Cameron, absent; Tim Hull, present; Donna Jensen, present; Godin Namberdapod, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Present.
Present.
Nancy Nicetoon, present; Michael O'Brien, absent; Joshua Walls, absent; Shelley Ward, absent; Sarah Albrecht, present; and Steve Roush, absent. Members of the public may attend in person or participate online at zoom.us/join, meeting ID 974-2342-2054. Once you log into the meeting, please use the chat feature to tell the moderator if you wish to speak to an item. For more information, you can see the agenda packet on the city's website. Now on to the agenda. Item 1, adoption of agenda. The first item of the meeting tonight is adoption of the agenda. City staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
None from staff.
Do any task force members have changes? May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
Moved by Jensen, seconded by Godin, to adopt the agenda. Will the city clerk please take a roll call vote as we have members participating virtually?
Newsman.
Aye.
Aye.
Hull.
Aye. Aye.
Jensen. Aye.
Sorry. Aye.
When I call your name.
Oh,
give me
sorry.
just a minute.
I'm used to
He really wants it to pass.
used to the old system.
Just look at it. Nambada,
Dampudiripad.
Nambada pad.
Yes.
Yes. Nice tune.
Here.
Albrecht.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. The second item is the approval of minutes. Item 2 of the agenda is approval of minutes of the January 26th meeting. Does staff have any changes to the minutes?
Nothing from staff, Chair.
Do any task force members have changes? May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay. Moved by Godin, seconded by Donna. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Newsman.
Aye.
Hull.
Aye.
Jensen. Aye. And
Go,
I'm
call
sorry.
go with it.
Godin.
Make it easy for you.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes. Nice tune.
Yes.
Albrecht.
Aye.
The motion carries. Item 3, review outstanding items. Item 3 of the agenda is to review those outstanding items. Are there any updates, city staff?
Chair, I just wanted to let you know that, under the current situation where Mr. Lindberg is now our interim city manager, there is, of course, some conflicting meetings on his schedule now as he's performing two roles for the city, and he will be here when he's needed here, but otherwise, he's not going to be here at the meeting every month. But I will be here every month. And Erica is my deputy city clerk, and she's also going to be here for many of the items as well, because she's our Muni Code, our city code online specialist.
Okay. Well,
And our licensing.
thank you for joining us,
Our
Erica.
licensing specialist as well. And for those of you who haven't met, Erica Henderson is a new deputy city clerk. She started here at the city in November.
Thank you. Item 4 is questions and comments from task force. Do city attorneys or staff have anything to add to the packet that was included?
No.
Okay,
The information that was in your packet was carried over from last month because we haven't moved on from this chapter, but it was included in case there was any follow-up questions.
perfect. Do any task force members have further comments? Okay. There are no items for final review, which is item 5 on the agenda. So that takes us to item 6 on the agenda, review of Title III, Chapter 1. This chapter was included in the meeting packet with staff's suggested edits since our discussion in January. So what we did last time that I thought worked pretty well was we went kind of page by page. So right now, we don't actually have page numbers on this, but we do have sections, and I think that's okay. As I recall, we got through the first 7 pages last time. We did specifically vote on a few motions. We voted to keep the minimum distance required of 0.75 miles and to keep the freestanding building requirement. I forget if there was another motion. I think there was a resolution to have certain language aligned that would bring in the bottle club. Yes.
Right, and I remember there was quite a bit of discussion about aligning this more closely with the state statute regarding liquor license. And so as staff went back, we noticed where we were off quite a bit, right? And so what we did is we went back and kind of reworked it all so that it would be more in line with the state statute and remove a lot of that extraneous stuff, talking about submitting reports, operational things that didn't need to be in the code. Remove those things, just kind of stripped it down to be more similar to the state law. We also looked at some other cities to make sure that we weren't leaving out something important that in there that other cities are also doing. Erica, do you want to add on to that at all?
No, that summarizes it.
Okay, good. But specifically, we had like an on-sale license type A, type B. These are not things that are delineated in state law, so we had that removed. We also took out, combined things that should have been naturally combined in the first place. And whereas over the years, we've had a liquor license, code that started out with this, and then we added the, brew pubs, and we added things were added and moved around over the years, and just tried to make it more streamlined and easier to follow and easier to read. So I hope that you found that.
Thank you.
I'm confused about what this printed piece is. Is this in our packet
Yes.
as which I,
Review Title 3, Chapter
Title
1.
3, Chapter 1.
okay. But okay. All right, I wasn't getting it aligned, so I'll go back and try harder.
Well, one of the things we also did is go through all the comments from the previous version was also in your packet so that you could compare. What we did was we went through all the comments as we went along and took those comments into account into this newer version as well.
Thank you. So I think let's just start on the first page, and as we get to the first few pages, we'll just call out the comments that have been changed. And then I think we'll continue on probably rather rapidly. If you have points for discussion or clarification, we'll try to bring them up on the page that we see them.
So basically, you're saying review this new edit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. that's right.
Just to make sure.
Yep, thank you. So we'll start with 311, state law provisions adopted. There's a comment that this was previously made by Jared, incorporated into the section, so you see the addition of a paragraph. And then at the end of the page, 313, types of liquor licenses. We see that this has been updated to reference Minnesota statutes and include the licenses in the statute. 313A, on-sale intoxicating liquor license, remove the distinction of on-sale A and on-sale B license types. We'll move on to the next page. Just stop me if you have questions. On B, so 313B, the distance building requirements were kept for our last meeting. Item C, wine licenses. Previously, the ordinance addressed wine licenses separately. That section was removed. I will proceed to the next page, and I'm looking at item P on 313. Distillery cocktail room on sale license. You'll note that distilleries have been added to this list. And that'll take us to the following page, 3151, license fee payment. It says new and renewal liquor license applicants must pay the license fee prior to the issuance of the liquor license. There's a comment that removed the allowance for On Sale and Wine to make 2 payments for renewal. They surveyed several cities. They all required the entire fee to be paid at the time of renewal. 316, days and hours of operation. This has been updated to reference Minnesota statutes. That'll take us to the next page. And so I think,
I have one question.
yes, well, what section?
3151, just a real quick question,
Yep,
when we remove that allowance for payments, when is the next cycle due for these businesses, and is it gonna take the businesses by surprise? And is there like a grace period which we will roll into that, or will they just get hit with it right away?
So the original code said that they were allowed to make the first payment with the application, and the second payment would be due 60 days after July 1st. So it's really only like 2.5 months, 3 months tops that there was a grace for. We looked and there was a few of our on-sale license holders that did utilize this, but for the most part, most of them didn't want to have to remember to make that extra payment. It's extra staff time to go back now who hasn't paid and find out who hasn't paid and go notify them, and just more work for both people. And because it was it's not like it's 6 months period of time. And like it said in the comments, we've surveyed other cities, and other cities aren't allowing this, so we just took it out.
Very good.
It didn't seem like it was a benefit worth keeping.
thank you.
Thank you.
Are the licenses all aligned for all the fees, are they all aligned for all licenses? So everyone is like July 1st?
So all liquor licenses are July 1st, except consumption and display.
Correct, which the state
Which the
does.
state sets that date for us.
Thank you. So we'll continue on to the following page, which starts at 318. I think that at this point, we are in a spot that we hadn't previously reviewed at all. Are there any comments on the page starting at 318 and ending with 3111? Okay, I'll move on to the next page, and if I go too fast, just raise your hand and we can always jump back a page. So on to 3112 and 3113. Persons ineligible for license. This was updated to remove the restriction for multiple interest parties. Can someone explain that to me?
So previously, the code restricted any one person or entity from owning more than one establishment. And so, for instance, at one time, MGM tried to have 2 establishments in the city, and it wasn't allowed. They did end up selling their interest in that other building to another party, and they still operated with an MGM on the sign, but it wasn't allowed, and we didn't see any reason to keep that restriction.
Okay,
I haven't read this in detail quite yet, but is this on sale and off sale? I seem to remember it implied that even bars, you could only own one in the city, which seemed
I think,
unnecessary to me, so.
right, I think
This addresses-
there had been comments on it in the previous section, so we looked at it and we think it was something that's kinda held over from years back. If Applebee's wanted to have 2 Applebee's here, I don't see why there should be any
Sure.
issue with that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was in response to your comment.
all right, good, okay.
excellent. Thank you. We'll move on to the next page. I'm sorry, Sarah?
Sorry, just one little thing on the 3112D, there's just a small spelling error for a sibling. So just a quick glance,
Oh, thank you.
brother, sister, yep.
Yep,
I know
3112D.
Sibling is spelled wrong.
Oh,
Brother and sister is,
Because it's already underlined, we probably didn't notice
Yeah.
the spelling.
Yeah.
thank you, Sarah. On to 3114, special conditions of approval. The task force comments regarding why this is needed. Special conditions are situation dependent. For example, bright outside lights cannot be aimed towards residential neighbors. Okay, so this is for the approval just of a business location?
No, a special condition can be anything. I put this in here because this has come up for a different business, it wasn't a liquor establishment. But I can see that, like a business that's close to residential, maybe they're not allowed to have, if they have these big bright lights in their parking lot, they can't have them like aimed at the residential homes in the neighboring area there. That kind of thing, just to keep a public nuisance away or something like that. It would definitely be only under certain circumstances. If people came and said, we are having a problem with this business, then the council could put a special condition.
But they would have to do it at the time of license
At the time of
issuing,
licensing,
which is there a distinction between the renewal of a license and the original granting of a license?
I think that a special condition could be added at the time of renewal if there was an issue.
Okay. And since it's in 3.1, this is only related to establishments that have liquor licenses, is that?
Just liquor. Yeah, there are other provisions of the code that allow for special conditions in other areas.
Okay, thank you.
And I had been concerned that there could perhaps be some, punitive kinds of conditions, but the wording seems to limit that kind of thing, so that's good. Rather than just, we really don't like that owner, and so we're gonna put up all these conditions that have nothing to do with.
Right, I
Or
don't.
you have to
I-
hire a whole bunch of security guards.
I
is
can
what
tell
I'm
you that
thinking.
I don't currently have any special conditions on any of my liquor license holders right now.
Okay, good.
Thank you. We'll proceed to the next page, which is still a continuation of 3.1.15. Item G. You see that safety, health, or repose is highlighted, and specifically, the language was updated to remove morals and comfort from the list of
Some of the
concerns.
Yeah. Some of the members had mentioned, morals is kind of a subjective, whose morals are we talking about? I thought comfort could possibly be in a similar situation where, one person's comfort would not be another person's comfort. I left it up to the task force if you feel like this is accurate of how, or representative of how you think it should be worded.
I like that language myself.
Yes, I agree.
I didn't understand that word repose. Health, safety, or repose?
Well,
What does
the
that
word
mean?
repose means a state of rest,
Yeah,
sleep, or
rest.
tranquility. I had to look it up as well, go ahead.
I think of it like, if you're disturbing the peace, there would be no repose, right?
Yeah, all I'm thinking is, should we say that rather than this word? It doesn't matter. It confuses me.
So, would perhaps the word tranquility be an appropriate word that is both understandable and conveys the meaning? Or is that too
Seems a little
broad?
loaded.
Because tranquility again is another word that's subjective for
Yeah.
definition difference between people.
So then
Do we
is
wanna, we can
repose
take
is,
it out?
I would prefer to leave it as is, the way it is.
I understand it, it's, if they suddenly start blaring out music at 1 a.m. at closing time or something, that would be harmful. I can't really think of a phrase that would say that same thing, but
Peace? Do we like peace? Better?
I think that's getting more, you're adding ambiguity,
more
and
ambiguous?
that's more of a feeling word, really.
Yep.
To me, that word tranquility means much more than
I think tranquility even implies a little more than repose, doesn't it?
that's what basically, that's what the intent is, I think, from that word.
So I
Do
think,
say something, sorry, jumping
No,
in from
please,
the computer
welcome.
realm here. Something about the nature of the environment, something about not changing the nature of the environment, because if it's a generally quiet area, that might be different than if it's near a busy intersection.
I think that this is an example where the law is trying to communicate an intent. And I think we probably all generally agree with the intent to preserve the state of, I'll use the word tranquility, although we agree that's too loaded. So I'll ask council if this word is removed, does that take away any ability of the city to enforce, I'll say quality of life concerns that businesses might impose on their neighbors?
I do think it would harm, Mr. Chair and members, I do think it would diminish the ability to deal with some certain nuisance conditions that probably don't rise to the level of safety or health, but are disturbing either through noise, light, vibrations, or other types of nuisance conditions. We could go with the health, safety, or welfare we do in the line above, but I think the intent originally was to expand or provide additional descriptive terms regarding health, safety, and welfare, and I think repose isn't as ambiguous as morals and comfort is, but does get some additional direction that it is broader than pure public health and safety types of nuisance conditions that we're at, and I would recommend keeping it.
Okay, that seems reasonable to me, looking for kind of a consensus. I'm seeing head shaking. If no one is violently opposed or strongly opposed to keeping repose, I think we'll keep it in.
I think it's an excellent word, actually.
Item 3.1.15.1, hearing notice. Point B, 10 calendar days is highlighted, and this is a comment from council of recommending changing to 14 days. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe not council. It was JSU?
Yep,
Okay,
that's true.
sorry. Due to reliance on US mail. I think that changing it to 14 days seems reasonable. Do people agree? Seems people agree with that, so if you would note the change of 10 days to 14 days. On the next section, 3.1.15.2, best practices program and administrative penalties. This section has been updated to describe the best practices program that is currently in place. Item 1, a vendor trains all employees. Remove the requirement that the vendor be approved by the city. Yes.
Chair, I just wanted to let you know in the title here, this section was originally entitled just administrative penalties. But because the administrative penalties were dependent on whether or not you are part of the best practices program, we looked at this quite extensively. We found that the state statutes have a best practices program for off sale but not on sale. And our current practice is to use the same for both on sale and off sale, but it was not written in our code anywhere that we did that. So we wanted to spell that out clearly so that it was understood what a best practices program was, and it's the same one that's spelled out for off sale in state statute.
Thank you for that context. On to the following page, point 3, establishes a cash award and incentive program to award employees who prevent underage buyers and a penalty program to punish employees in the event of a failed compliance check. The best practices program requirements are derived directly from statute.
Go ahead.
I had noted originally that seemed it seemed especially prescriptive for exactly how to do something, and, to start saying you have to have an incentive program for employees seemed odd. So, but if that's the requirement by the state,
The staff felt the same way, and we went to look at the statute, and it was written in statute that way, so we
Okay.
couldn't change it.
all right,
What we did change is on the page before about the vendor, it said, a city-approved vendor, and we did take that out, because that was not required.
I don't feel real strongly about it, but someone might wanna look at that at the state statute level.
Agreed. I was like looking to strike that line completely until I realized it was in statute and I couldn't.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. So that takes us through the rest of the page where we see a fee structure for violations. And on to the next page where we see another violation schedule. Yes,
It wasn't commented on here, but one of the comments from the previous version mentioned it wasn't clear about days and that kind of thing on here. So each one was spelled out completely in this schedule instead of just having a number 3 in there, that's, so to speak.
thank you.
Just curious, these fines and or the schedule, is that in just for the city, or is it from state, state statute? How did this came? We established it, or is it from state? Just curious.
Mr. Jamnik, do you remember where this came from?
The $2,000 is the amount that's been in the state statute for many, many years. It's hopelessly outdated, but the legislature hasn't reviewed 348 to increase it. And so when the city adopted this progressive fine schedule or fee schedule, it started with the maximum amount that's allowed under the state statute and worked backwards to give a progressive incentive to have a lower first violation and then a moderated second violation and then the worst. But the only thing that you can do beyond the $2,000 civil penalty is the revocation. And so that's the reason it's drafted the way it is, and then it distinguishes between those business participating in the best practice to give them a break should they slip up.
Thank you.
Am I correct that cities are allowed to issue penalties up to $10,000?
No, I mean, the statute in 348 specifically has that dollar amount in there. Our general authorization for standard violations of city code provisions is a misdemeanor level violation, which is the lower amount.
Do you know what that amount is?
It's 1 year, or 90 days and $1,000 at this point, I believe.
Thank you.
So the liquor is actually more than the misdemeanor. Gross misdemeanors would be a 1 year and $5,000, or depending on what's in the statute. But we don't have the authority to do a gross misdemeanor level.
Thank you. That'll take us into the following page where we see E, F, and G, and 3.1.16, write-up inspections. I don't see any comments in there. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this page? Okay. That takes us to a very weird formatting. Is that the end?
I think it is,
Yes. 3.1.16 is the last section.
Okay, so then we see the next 20 or so pages or 30 pages, I guess, is just a repeat of.
That was last month's version, and we wanted that to be available to you so that you could go back, look at the comments to see if everything that you had concerns or questions about was addressed.
Okay. So this is not the final review, so I'm not certain that a motion is needed. Okay.
Unless anybody has any other questions or would like any other language restated, revised.
Okay.
Have we talked about the comments from the public? Have those been considered?
Do you mean when people came and spoke to us?
No, I'm reading, Someone named Shayna Conklin.
Shayna's was with our office as the attorney's draft comments.
Got it. Okay.
There is one comment regarding, from Skip, regarding the micro distillery
And that was the,
issue.
That
and
was
we
the draft.
took that. Okay.
Okay. So I believe that will lead us very quickly to the conclusion of this meeting. Item 7 is miscellaneous items. The next code review task force meeting will be March 30th, 2022, 5:30 PM here in the council chambers. Meetings will be typically held on the last Wednesday night of each month in 2022. Our homework is to review Title III, Chapters 4 through 19, which is included in tonight's packet. Chapters 2 and 3 were previously repealed, and that's why we're starting with Chapter 4 for the homework. Task force comments need to be submitted by Wednesday, March 16th.
It is in this current agenda or
It's-
previous agenda?
It's in this packet under homework, under the miscellaneous homework section.
At the very end.
Oh, got it. Okay, sorry.
And I think it's about 31 pages
No,
approximately.
it's not.
Section.
Oh, yeah, it's in here.
Then I think at this point, if there are no additional items, I would be looking for, I guess I'm not looking for a motion to adjourn, I just am adjourning according to my script.
Do
Is a
we need
motion
a-
to adjourn required?
No, you can declare, I mean, you can make a ruling from the chair if you wish, that the
Okay.
meeting's adjourned, if
I-
there's no further business. But I
Is-
think, member Nystuen had a question.
I'm sorry, it's not evident to me when I click on the agenda report / miscellaneous PDF that I have chapters 4 through 19, but apparently I do, and I'm just not really seeing it very well.
So there's a cover sheet, and it says assignment and homework, review Title III, Chapters 4 through 19, that's the packet I'm looking at.
Yep.
And it says attachments, Title III, Chapters 2 through 19 for task force homework. And
And-
that is pages 2 through 31 in the PDF.
Chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all
Yeah, they're,
struck.
yes.
Apparently I do.
I guess that's a definitive yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Perhaps just a little foreshadowing or introduction to those sections. A lot of those sections are very dated and were adopted by the city when the state did not generally regulate and license occupations to the extent that they do. And consequently, the task force members, when you review those sections, you'll note that many of them, the margin indicates that we no longer believe that they are necessary in the city code because the state has assumed oversight or licensing of those occupations. And what we're trying to do is simply network and meld our regulation to pick up the state regulation. For instance, in building contractors, pipe fitters, and laborers in those types of situations, the state has stepped up in regulation some of those occupations. One of the occupations they have not yet done that with is massage therapists and some of the other alternative healthcare providers. And so that's why that section would be recommended to be retained and would be the focus perhaps of task force comments study in more in-depth. But just lay the groundwork that's why you'll see strikeouts on a lot of those sections in the next set of sections.
A majority of it,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would expect that our next meeting would be probably pretty quick to review these items. It appears there's more things removed from the remainder of the title than there is left in.
I think the bulk of the changes are gonna show up in the massage licensing. Similar to the liquor license, we're looking at doing a revamp so that it's more closely aligned with statute and just easier to read and easier to follow, because over the years, this section has again been piecemealed in with things coming in and out, and we'd like to kind of streamline that a little bit, and now that we have Erica on board with us, we're having a little more success with that.
Great. For the people online, do you have any questions or comments before I adjourn? Okay. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.